Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank where I climb the Online Series 10 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we are using a Zacian team built by a player called Neil, who was actually able to get number 1 on the ladder with this just a couple of days ago. Zacian's obviously one of the strongest restricted Pokemon in the format, and this team, it definitely utilizes it super well, and I think it is just one of the most consistent teams that I've tried out so far. And so, yeah, if you're looking for a very strong team to kind of learn the fundamentals of Series 10 and generally VGC, I would really highly recommend this team. So, we'll go through each of the individual Pokemon, obviously starting with Zacian. Now, this is going to be a much bulkier Zacian than you might be used to. It has max HP investment, 68 defense investment, and 124 special defense investment in terms of EVs, only 20 attack and 44 speed. And so what this allows you to do is easily like switch in Zacian with more confidence, knowing that you'll be able to take attacks a little bit better. Similarly, in line with that, the Urshifu on the team is also very bulky. It's max HP, 100 defense EVs, 76 special defense EVs. So Zacian and Urshifu are typically Pokemon that people see as more hyper-offensive and a little bit more frail, but both of these Pokemon actually have an immense amount of bulk tied to them. The Zacian here also has Substitute. You'll typically see Substitute or Swords Dance as the kind of filler option, occasionally Play Rough as well. And so Sub is just really strong because of the number of kind of Intimidators and Fake Out users in the format, and Zacian often, if you get it into the right position, can get a free Substitute off with basically no downside whatsoever. So Zacian's really strong, but with this team, like, it's not about necessarily just bringing Zacian in the early game and sweeping with it, because that's actually often difficult to do, especially considering the number of like Intimidators in the format, as well as support like can stop Zacian, like Volcarona, for example. So as a result, you often want to focus your efforts more on chipping away on your opponent's side using the rest of the Pokemon, and then bringing Zacian out in the end game to really close out things, right? So Zacian can, of course, be a really strong lead, but so many teams obviously run Incineroar, and even just bringing that +1 boost down to neutral will drastically decrease your damage output. And so for Zacian, like you can bring it out in the early game, but when you do so, make sure that it can be relatively protected and still get really consistent damage off. Otherwise, I often find it better to conserve it and wait for the late game, but it's very dependent on the scenario. So I've talked about Zacian. This is classic Wave Incense Urshifu, but like I mentioned, it's a little bit bulkier than you're used to. You've got classic Focus Sash Alecki with Volt Switch, AV Rillaboom with U-Turn and Knockoff. The U-Turn and Volt Switch on Alecki and Rillaboom respectively are really important because it allows for so many different positioning plays. That's really important and key for a team like this, which has so many good defensive type synergies. Finally, to round out the team, you've got Citrus Berry Quiver Dance Volcarona, which I think is a really interesting set. Typically, when people see Volcarona nowadays, I feel like you either expect support Volcarona with Rage Powder or Quiver Dance. And honestly, if I were to see this team in Team Preview without knowing anything about it, I often assume I think the Volcarona is actually a Rage Powder set rather than Quiver Dance. So Quiver Dance is really fun because in the right teams, you can just potentially get a free boost set up and then really just sweep with Volcarona. This is specifically very helpful into, say, the Mirror Zacian match, right? Where in the Mirror, for example, you're going to struggle a little bit because the Zacian is so slow, and so their Zacian more often than not will be able to move before you. So that's where Volcarona can really come in handy. Get a single Quiver Dance off, and you just do so much damage. That Citrus Berry allows you to survive for a little bit longer as well. And then finally, this Indeedee. So Indeedee is a little bit more offensive, as you can see, is carrying that Life Orb with Expanding Force and Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is primarily to deal with Calyrex Shadow Rider. With that Life Orb, you can one-shot a lot of Calyrex Shadow Riders without any investment. And then Expanding Force, of course, just the strongest attack on Indeedee. And then Follow Me and Protect, pretty standard attacks there as well to round out things. So, this team is relatively standard in terms of Pokemon, but first of all, I want to say that the EV spreads are really strong on this team. And if you're looking for good spreads for Pokemon in general, I think there's a lot of inspiration to take from this team because none of it is like 252, 252, 4 other than the Regieleki. Like the Zacian spread is really bulky, allows it to survive for a lot longer than players expect. The Urshifu bulky spread is also really neat as well. So it might look a little bit standard, but it's just so consistent. It's really strong. And like I said, if you're looking for a team to really just like get the hang of Series 10 with, this is one that I would highly recommend. So huge thank you to Neil for the team. Check him out, linked in the description below, including a rental and a paste, and let's get started. Getting into our first match of the day, and it's gonna be against Yveltal, but some really interesting support in Gothitelle and the Kommo-O as well. So obviously we want to respect Trick Room here. Zacian in general is really good, so they're probably gonna need to rely on the Incineroar to stop it. I mean, Incineroar is definitely coming out here. You need Rillaboom then to deal with my Urshifu. So Incin, Rillaboom, Yveltal feel like a lock for my opponent. And then for the fourth, one of Gothitelle or Stakataka would be my guess. So, what's the scariest thing? Fake Out plus Trick Room lead, right? Does Quiver Dance Volcarona offer much here? Mainly because they have... If they didn't have Stakataka, I'd probably actually think about bringing Volcarona, but because of Stakataka, I don't like it very much. And then Indeedee here, we do have Shadow Ball. Expanding Force does okay damage. Aleki is handy, especially into Yveltal specifically. I know we have 15 seconds left, so we're getting a little bit low on time. We do have knockoff on this. Okay, I think I'm going to go Rillaboom, Aleki, Urshifu, plus the Zacian. I don't want to lead Zacian because you can obviously just slow it down with an Intimidate immediately. And so I kind of like the idea of having it in the back for now, but let's see. Either way, thanks so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoy, please share your support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, I want to know what your goal for Series 10 is down in the comment section below. I don't think I have any specific goals. It's, just obviously a little bit weird with the lack of major events, but if I guess I had to set one, it would be to just feature every restricted Pokemon at least once on Road to Rank, kind of like what we did in Series 8. Okay, so my opponent is going to lead with Incineroar plus Gothitelle. So us trading Fake Outs here is fairly likely. I can conserve the Focus Sash here on the Regieleki, so what I can do is just Fake Out into Gothitelle, protect Aleki turn 1. Yeah, this is why I didn't want to lead Zacian. Okay. Fake Out into Gothitelle and protect, and then we can pivot out next turn. We could even go for like we could go knockoff Volt Switch or U-turn Volt Switch. Without the Intimidate, I actually think we'd pick up the KO on Gothitelle with the double up, but with the Intimidate, I'm not so sure we do. So, yeah, I'm fairly sure my opponent's 4 are going to be Instant Gothitelle with Urshifu and Yveltal in the back. That just makes the most sense to me. Which is okay. I guess part of the thing is we'd actually like to knock out Incineroar sooner than later. One of the main questions is whether or not I can actually deny Trick Room in this matchup. Oh, Gothitelle protects. Okay, that's a really nice play. Are they just Flare Blitzing or Parting Shotting here? Either way, that's a great play on their end. Okay. The Fake Out Protect play. You don't see that too frequently, but it makes sense in the context of this turn. So Flare Blitz into Rillaboom or Parting Shot here feels fairly likely. Also, there's a decent chance Stakataka is in the back. Like, I can just go for Knockoff and Thunderbolt. The problem here is if I don't pick up the KO with that. I'm really not sure. I feel like it'll survive, but if we actually manage to pick up a knockout here, it puts us in such phenomenal shape. So I think I'm actually willing to go for it. And even if we don't pick up the KO, it's fine. So let's see. We're going to get Thunderbolt off. That's good damage. I think we're going to miss it by like 10% or so if I had to guess. Yep. Unfortunate. They were Mentor. Instant's going to U-turn out into the Regieleki. Okay. So the good thing here is we get crit, unfortunately. Right as I say, the good thing. And as I'm sure Trick Room is going up right now. The good thing is that we have a U-turn to pivot out. And obviously we have Zacian, which matches up pretty well into Yveltal in general. Interesting. Okay, so they did bring Stakataka. Okay. They're going to get Trick Room off. The play I was thinking of making was Volt Switch and U-turn into Gothitelle, because what that allows me to do is then bring Rillaboom back in for Fake Out. But I think here I'm content to just protect the Regieleki. It's a fairly obvious protect, but I think I'm still willing to go for it. And U-turn out into Gothitelle. The worst case is what? Helping Hand, Rock Slide? They actually switch Gothitelle out, works for me, into Incineroar. Okay, so the interesting thing here is I'll be able to pivot in the Urshifu for free, which is pretty good for us. Now, the one thing we have to watch out for is that Incineroar in general is just kind of annoying to deal with when you're using Zacian, so we want to be careful with it. But we're going to go for the safe protect here. They're just going to opt for Rock Slide. Yep, hopefully we dodge a flinch here, or just dodge the attack. It is going to connect, that's fine. That's a really big flinch. Ugh. I don't love that, but that's okay. It happens. Okay, I can switch Aleki now into Urshifu. The thing is that Rillaboom can just Flare Blitz here into either slot. Maybe they read into my switch, though. So I'm going to U-turn once again, targeting the Incineroar slot, switch Regieleki out into Urshifu. Yeah, because if we had gotten the U-turn off, I'd get the free switch into Urshifu, which puts on so much offensive pressure against both of my opponent's Pokemon right now. But, you know, that's what happens when you let your opponent set up Trick Room. Okay, they're just going to go for Rock Slide, no Fake Out there. So probably just Rock Slide plus Flare Blitz, I would guess, until the Rillaboom slot. Rillaboom's honestly not that important in the match for me at this point in the game, so I'm fine, like, losing it. Because we should know my opponent's 4 Pokemon, right? Incineroar, Stakataka, Gothitelle, plus that Yveltal. So the main reason I brought Rillaboom to start the game was for that initial Fake Out, which they mitigated with Protect, which would have been pretty interesting. I wonder if Fake Out would have actually done enough damage for us to potentially win the game. So this is interesting. I can bring Zacian in, and this next turn is really critical, right? Because Zacian protecting here seems so obvious. So if you're my opponent, you could contemplate, like, reading into the Protect. So I almost want to... I'm just double-checking the spread that we have here. We have a lot of investment, too. 252 HP, 68 defense. And there's still 2 turns of Trick Room left. I honestly think here I want to just attack and just close combat Stakataka and Surging Strikes into the Incineroar slot. We're pretty bulky with both of these Pokemon right now. And even if we survive with just 1 HP... Okay, they actually switched Stakataka out. Works for me. Into Rillaboom. Wow, they didn't bring Yveltal. That's fascinating. And as you can see, they read into the Protect there. Yeah, so that's exactly why I didn't want to Protect. This is perfect, because I get a Surging Strikes on whatever comes in, and Close Combat does so much damage into Rillaboom right now. So I made kind of a gamble there, saying that I didn't think they would target, you know, double up onto Zacian with like Flare Blitz and something like a Body Press. That was probably the scariest thing we had to deal with here, but fortunately for us, that didn't come out. So we'll KO the Gothitelle here, gets rid of the trap. That's really big, and the other thing is, yeah, Close Combat into Rillaboom is also a big deal. If we one-shot, we're in amazing shape, but even if we don't pick up the one-hit KO, it's still pretty good. Okay, Rillaboom does survive, but that's fine. The main thing to watch out for right now, though, is that this Rillaboom can obviously just Grassy Glide. My opponent gets to bring something in right now, but what I can do is just double protect this subsequent turn. Oh, I actually wasn't counting Terrain well there. That's really good for us that they brought in Rillaboom then. Yeah, because like Terrain disappears, so now your Glide isn't even priority. If I'm my opponent, what am I doing here? Bringing Stakataka? Oh, they actually bring Incineroar. That's interesting. I think the play for them was to bring out Stakataka and then attack with Stakataka and then pivot Rillaboom out into Incineroar. But what I can do now is just double protect, right? It's the last turn of Trick Room. I'm still at neutral. And then with no more terrain, I can just close combat and Surging Strikes. So, yeah. I think double protect here is appropriate. And, you know, I don't really blame them for not bringing Yveltal because Yveltal is just so bad into Zacian, honestly. And, like, that's one of the downsides of using Yveltal in this format, right? You're going to struggle a lot against one of the strongest / most common restricted Pokemon. Okay, they fake out. One play that would have been really interesting was, like, self-U-turning or just self-targeting yourself to pivot out into Stakataka for free here. Because, like, the downside for my opponent is you don't have priority anymore. So it's very safe for me to just close combat Rillaboom and Surging Strikes. And so this is the upside of, you know, running a team with a lot of protects. A lot of teams in Series 10 actually are like, you know, dropping protect on a lot of Pokemon. And I think here, you know, even though our team is so speedy, it's actually not that bad to stall out Trick Room. I'd say the one really big play I made this turn or made this game was the one in which I just expected them not to Flare Blitz Zacian immediately. And if you're in my opponent's position, like, yeah, you could make the argument to Flare Blitz there just immediately, but like, you know, me protecting the Urshifu, or sorry, me protecting Zacian and then just Surging Striking into the Incineroar slot seems really obvious in that position. So, yeah, and I figured, you know, we have a lot of bulk with the Zacian as well, so why not? Either way, Close Combat will get the KO here onto the Rillaboom. We're Wave Incense and I believe 76 attack EVs on the Urshifu, so I don't know if we'll knock out the Incineroar here, especially if it's buried, but we'll see. Okay, here's the first Surging Strikes. Might survive. It's pretty close. Are you Citrused? Okay, with Citrus, I think we get the KO, honestly, but let's see. We should get the knockout here. Nice. Perfect. Beautiful. Cool. That was exactly enough damage, fortunately for us, and now they bring in Stakataka and we can just double hit it. So, yeah, I think, like, this is the reality of Series 10, where it's like it's a little bit tougher to execute with certain restricted Pokemon. I actually really like my opponent's decision to not bring in that Yveltal, because like I said, it's just so tough to execute it against Zacian and Regieleki. Now, Yveltal would have still been pretty good into Urshifu and Rillaboom if they were AV. You know, it's actually not even that bad against Aleki. But yeah, now we can just close combat, the Stakataka, and go for Surging Strikes. And yeah, the main thing in this game is just kind of positioning. Like, my opponent, the scariest thing on their team was Trick Room, right? But in order for them to guarantee Trick Room, they basically had to lead Fake Out plus a Trick Room user. Now, Incin plus Stakataka might have been a little bit scarier, actually, because I didn't lead super well to cover that specifically. So I think if I were to replay that, there is an argument to be made where I lead the Urshifu instead of the Regieleki. Like Rillaboom plus the Urshifu, because then I have the faster Fake Out, and Surging Strikes also crits, so it ignores Intimidate from the Incineroar. And by leading Urshifu, I'd also cover for the Stakataka lead. So I think if I'm... Yeah, I think my lead actually could have been a little bit better there. And like I said, I wasn't expecting Regieleki plus Rillaboom to pick up the KO there. But in the end, you could see that they just kind of lacked damage output, right? Like Gothitelle traded 90% of its health just to set up Trick Room. Incineroar never actually got a Flare Blitz off into Zacian. The Zacian completely walled the Rillaboom. And then, yeah. Actually, they just didn't have good damage output into the Stakataka. The only real threat to... Or sorry, into Zacian. The only real threat to Zacian was that Incineroar. So fortunately for us, that didn't come out. But yeah. You can see how consistent this team can be, even with Trick Room going up. Just with the amount of bulk that we had a lot of room to make relatively safe plays. Like I said, the only play that was a little bit scary was the turn I just attacked with Zacian, but I figured that was a read I was willing to make, and it paid off for us. So yeah, let's just get into our next game here. Second game of the day, and it's up against Dialga. Very cool. Okay. And we played against a Dialga in the second episode of Road to Ranked for this season, but it's something that I'm personally really interested in. Choice Scarf Landers or Choice Band Landers with Telepathy Dialga here makes a lot of sense. So that's one thing to watch out for. Lando in general is actually pretty scary here, honestly. Zacian's damage output is obviously pretty solid. I have to worry about Choice Scarf Entei as well. Entei could be a really big issue, actually. Entei Rillaboom, Rillaboom Landorus. Both of those are leads I'm looking at that I think could be a real big issue for us. Once again, I don't think I can bring Volcarona with potential Stone Edge and Rock Slide from Entei and Landorus respectively. Okay, I want to try this out. Urshifu Indeedee, Zacian plus Rillaboom. Like I said, I don't love Volcarona here, and I feel like Aleki's only use would be either to Electro Web, specifically into, say, the Entei and the Urshifu, and then just Volt Switch. Indeedee is actually pretty good offensively in this matchup, but obviously they could, get terrain control with Rillaboom, so that's one thing to watch out for. So, honestly, I kind of favor their matchup a little bit here. They're going to go with Dialga and Entei. Okay. I mean, I'm actually pretty happy about that. Now, if I'm my opponent, I'm turn 1 switching Entei out into Rillaboom to get rid of the Psychic Terrain and to put on pressure against Urshifu and to avoid Surging Strikes. So I feel like a switch in there is pretty likely. What I can do is close combat. I'm expecting Rillaboom to switch in. I could bring in Zacian. We have Expanding Force and Shadow Ball. Those aren't really too strong for us right now. My one fear is that Entei just decides to stay it and click Sacred Fire, and I want to switch the Indeedee out here into Rillaboom, but could be scary if they read that. I guess Follow Me close combat's relatively safe. Okay, I'm down to make that play. Yep, there's the switch. I think it should be Rillaboom. Yeah. I just didn't want to, this play works out either way, because it's like, if I had switched into Rillaboom, I potentially lose the Urshifu. Urshifu's so essential for us in this matchup in dealing with Zacian. So, the play I can make this next turn is probably just switch the Urshifu out. Sorry, protect Urshifu, switch Indeedee out into Rillaboom, and then go from there. I just didn't think close combat plus Shadow Ball would be enough to KO Dialga, but it would have. Wow. That is really good damage. I could have just won the game turn 1 then, probably, by Shadow Balling there. but that's okay. If we had, like, this is only 76 attack EVs on Urshifu. If we had more attack, that Dialga was a goner. That's fine, though. Like I said, the play I can make here is just protect Urshifu and then switch Indy out into AB Rillaboom and then go from there. So pretty interesting that we run into Trick Room two games in a row, but in this game, I actually could have just denied it turn 1. I feel like if Dialga goes down turn 1, I don't even know how you come back if you're my opponent. But I honestly don't even mind our position too much right now. I'm double checking NDD's speed here. We have 100 speed EVs, okay. You know, this is like a fairly easy switch out to read into, but I don't even think I can lose that much here, even if they read into it, so it's like fine. Nicely done, though. U-turn is the best possible move they could have gone for there, so really, really good there. Although now it's like you're switching out the thing that actually threatens my Urshifu, so it's like if you bring the Entei back in, well, then I can just fake out your Dialga and Surging Strikes the Entei. So while they, you know, get pivoting out here, yeah, like this is actually pretty good for us, I'd say, especially because my Urshifu is slow. They go for Draco. Perfect. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm honestly down to just fake out the Dialga here and Surging Strikes the Entei. It's a pretty safe play to make, I think. If we get rid of Entei, my opponent's matchup into the Zacian is really lacking. They switch Dialga out, that's fine. Into Landorus, okay. That's, honestly, I'm happy to see that. So it already confirms all of my opponent's Pokemon, and obviously you don't really need to care about Intimidate with Urshifu. Could be a double switch here, that'd actually be a really good play. Let's see. Nope. I mean, unless their Entei is really slow here, let's see. Ah, Rocky Helmet, nice. Yeah, this is the nice thing of running slow Urshifu. I think one of the fun things about this format is seeing players, you know, move away towards just using Focus Sash, Max Attack, Max Speed Urshifu. Like, that was the only set people ran, really. Oh, Citrus? Or Figgy / one of the bulky berries? That actually might allow Entei to survive. It is Citrus. Okay, let's see. Oh, it survives. That's a big deal. I'm going to get Sacred Fire off into Rillaboom. I feel like I don't even mind that too much, though, right? Citrus Berry Entei. Very cool. Yeah, this is one game in which, like, if we had just a little bit of more of attack investment, we would have been able to knock out both the Dialga and the Entei. But the bulk is so worth it on Urshifu, honestly, where it's like, I don't even mind. So, let's bring out the NDD now, I think. We've gotten control of the terrain. My opponent's definitely switching one of these two out into the Rillaboom. You should switch Entei out into Rillaboom. Actually, you could switch the Landorus out. Still 2 turns of Trick Room. 2 turns of Trick Room. Dialga's relatively low. Rillaboom hasn't taken damage yet. Close combat into Entei is very safe here. Okay, I'm down to just expanding Force Landorus close combat Entei here, I think. Oh, interesting. They don't switch. That's a little frustrating, actually, because I could have just gone Surging Strikes Expanding Force here then. But I will get a Life Orb single target Expanding Force onto Lando, which is pretty good damage, obviously. But nice decision there to, yeah, not switch. That's almost just a 1-hit KO. And a U-turn, okay. Does that KO us? No, not even close. Okay, nice. This is going to be a close finish for sure. They made the nice play there to... Like, I could have just won the game by clicking Surging Strikes Lando and Expanding Force. What was I nervous about? Lando switching out into Rillaboom? It's not like my play really covered for that, though, right? If I went Surging Strikes Expanding Force and target the Entei, I still KO Entei and get damage on the Rillaboom anyway. So, yeah, I probably didn't play that turn perfectly. That's okay. I still honestly don't even mind our position right now. Dialga comes out. Last turn of Trick Room here. The question is, do you have like something on Dialga that can really hurt Zacian? Because the play I want to make right now is just protect the Urshifu and then switch NDD out into Zacian. Alternatively, I can just double protect here, but I want to regain control of the terrain, I think, because it's really handy against Rillaboom. So I'm going to make this switch, but it's a very obvious play. And if Dialga has something that can hit the Zacian for super effective damage. I mean, the thing is, even if you double up onto the Zacian, I'm not sure you KO it. What's the worst case? U-turn, flamethrower, high horsepower flamethrower, I guess. Everything's really low, right? The Landorus is an Aqua Jet away from getting KO'd. We know it's Rocky Helmet. But we know that we outspeed it under Trick Room, so it's faster than the Urshifu outside of Trick Room. Okay, they could just go for Fake Out. That's fine with me. And Draco. Okay, perfect. Yeah, they didn't read into the switch, which is very good for us here. It's very good for us, because now what I can do... if you're my opponent, you could still gain control of the terrain, right? Your play here is to U-turn with Rillaboom. You should never Grassy Glide, but the thing is, do I want to take that risk? Actually, Indeedee survives U-turn anyway. Yeah, so it's actually very safe to just U-turn there and then close combat into Dialga. Yeah, that works for me. Okay, they switched Dialga out. That's fine. Close combat KOs Landorus. You'll probably U-turn Rillaboom out. The thing is, I also could have made like the aggressive decision to just attack here with Urshifu, but I don't feel like it's worth it because let's say they Grassy Glide here. We should just win the game because now we have terrain control. And even if you U-turn out that last... Oh no, that last U-turn was from Lando, right? So Rillaboom might actually pick up the KO onto it. Okay, either way, close combat finishes off Lander, so that's good. Question here is, do you U-turn Indeedee with Rillaboom and do you pick up the KO with it? Moment of truth. Nope, they Grassy Glide. Sweet. Does pick up the knockout because it actually gets a critical hit, but that's fine, I think. Obviously, I don't love seeing a crit there because if you don't crit, I think Indeedee should survive, and then that should guarantee us the game. But that's okay. Just asking myself, have we seen any confirmation on the item on Rillaboom? Either way, I think it's fine to just click close combat here into Dialga. Here I'm contemplating, is there any point in clicking substitute? Close combat should be a 2-hit KO on Rillaboom from either Pokemon. So we always want to close combat Dialga because we don't want Trick Room to go up again. Is there any benefit in subbing? I mean, is there any reason not to substitute, I guess, is the question. I'm down to go for it here. I feel like there's... I can't think of any downside right now. There probably is some, but nothing jumps to mind immediately. I didn't think about the fact that Dialga would be faster than the Urshifu. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That makes this more interesting. Uh-oh. Because I could have just... The reason I didn't just close combat and they're going to just glide... Oh, but they target Zacian. Okay, well now the game's definitely over. I think based off that, though, that assumes they don't have high horsepower, meaning that we had the game won anyway, even if you just glided into Urshifu, because I can just go Behemoth Blade into close combat and finish off the game, right? We'll see how much Behemoth Blade would have done. Because we know close combat does, you know, a little bit more here. At this point, the game's over. Rillaboom can't knock out both Pokemon in enough turn. Oh, okay. We won't even find out. But yeah, I was talking about, you know, slow Urshifu this entire time. I didn't think about the fact that I thought Dialga would be like a min speed given that it had Trick Room, and so I didn't think about that. But we didn't see its full moveset, and wow, you know, that's actually really scary though, because if they had actually just clicked Draco Meteor into Urshifu there, I could have lost the game. But I don't have a safe play to make there, right? I guess this quote-unquote safe play is to protect Urshifu, close combat Dialga. The fear there is if the Rillaboom actually has high horsepower, and then I'm at -2 defense, and you actually pick up the KO onto Zacian with high horsepower. But we're relatively healthy, so I wouldn't think so. Yeah, and this is a much bulkier Zacian than normally, so... The reason I didn't just close combat Dialga there was because I feared Dialga protecting and me just whiffing an attack into it. And I just had it in my head that the Dialga had no speed investment given that it had Trick Room. But as you often see with Dialga or Palkia or any of the restricted Pokemon that use Trick Room, often they'll have Trick Room, but they won't even be like min speed. Although the Palkia we ran into yesterday did end up being, I think, like close to min speed, if not min speed. So yeah, that's what makes those Pokemon really interesting, where it's like you kind of have to play the guessing game, but your opponent has full knowledge of how fast they are. But yeah, either way, really, really solid game. So let's look for our next one. Third matchup of the day, and we got Calyrex Shadow Rider. Okay, cool. So fun mix of different restricted Pokemon, although I guess Yveltal didn't come out in the first one. I do enjoy the diversity in restricted Pokemon that we get to go up against, though. Like, obviously, there's a couple that are really, really popular. Surprisingly, no Eternatus yet. That's one that I have on my list to check off pretty soon. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. So this is where Indeedee is really handy, right? We're Life Orb and we have Shadow Ball, so we actually just one-shot Calyrex Shadow Rider. I'm mainly looking at Suicune because of its ability to Tailwind. Like, both Rillaboom and Indeedee are must-brings into this matchup into my opponent's team, so those two are without a doubt. Yeah, we're definitely bringing Indeedee and the Rillaboom and Zacian. So that leaves room for one more, and I also have to figure out leads. Volcarona does have Quiver Dance here. Still don't love it. Guess it's not bad. Okay, I'm down to lead Indeedee plus... Would I rather have a Lecky or Urshifu? Probably a Lecky, because they can Electro Web. So Indeedee, a Lecky, Zacian, Rillaboom. That works for me. Actually, I think I have to. No, I don't have to, but the match just became harder because I didn't bring Urshifu, and specifically because my opponent has Incineroar, right? Now obviously my Zacian can still do a lot of damage into Incineroar, but Urshifu is the best answer into Incineroar. So I think since I was debating between Lecky and Urshifu in the end there, it's probably better, yeah, as they lead Incineroar here. Like, could you imagine if I led Indeedee plus the Urshifu turn 1? You're basically just forced to switch out the Incineroar immediately. Now, the question is, how bulky is your Suicune? They also could have Darkest Lariat, right? That's the other scary thing. What I want to do turn 1 is just Expanding Force T-Bolt into Suicune. But if they're Wakandberry, then they'll probably survive the turn and then get Tailwind off. So, yeah, like, I don't even think I need to worry too much about Tailwind going off in this game because you can't actually do damage into Indeedee with anything but Incineroar. So, yeah, not only is Incineroar a threat to Zacian, but it's also a threat to Indeedee. So, I think, as I was, getting into this game, I was already saying, okay, it probably should have been Urshifu, but this just, like, confirms that even more. So, it should have been Urshifu, Indeedee, Zacian, plus Rillaboom in the back. Oh, okay, they actually switch out. That's a brilliant switch on their end. Okay. So we know 3 of their 4 Pokemon already, which is obviously handy information. I'm curious if they went for Fake Out here. U-turn would be a really sweet play. Yep, they did not click Fake Out. And part of the thing was this turn 1. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they'd actually bring Rillaboom in the back as well. Pretty good damage. I mean, to chunk Rillaboom to 50 is solid. Okay, they Parting Shot. You know what? I'll gladly take that. They didn't break a Focus Action on Lecky. They didn't do damage into the Indeedee, so it's not even that bad, honestly. So now my guess is what? You bring out the Suicune. But we did get 50% of damage off onto Rillaboom. Oh, they just bring Calyrex out immediately. Okay. Well, with Calyrex out immediately, the play I want to make is to double protect. The only tricky thing here is so many Calyrex Shadow Riders run Substitute. I don't remember Calyrex Shadow Rider's speed off the top of my head at max speed, but we're not outspeeding, I think, with a single Electro Web anyway. But the play I'm leaning towards making is double protect here into Electro Web Shadow Ball into Calyrex the next turn. If you're my opponent, you can make a really cool play here, which is actually just hard switch Rillaboom out into Incineroar to recycle the Fake Out. I think the upside for us in all of the matches we've played today is that we've gained like an early information advantage in just knowing what my opponent's 4 Pokemon are, and that obviously gives us more room to work with, right? Like turn 1 didn't even play out that poorly, although it could have gone a lot worse. And they're, it's actually Calyrex switching. Okay, that's not the switch I was expecting. That's really cool. Maybe be baiting a Shadow Ball there. Very smart. Okay. Instin's probably parting shot this next turn, right? Yeah, I mean, so much of VGC in this format is kind of like a cycling of fake outs. More so than any other format, honestly, it feels like. And then they U-turn out into Indeedee. Yeah, nice play. Okay. Huh. It's a very weird position to be in right now. Like, obviously, I want to regain terrain. Actually, terrain control is not even that important, to be honest. I think I probably want to double switch here. Just have to be careful about a Flare Blitz from that thing into the wrong slot. Yeah, wait. Terrain control is not really that important with Indeedee, is it? I guess it mainly stops Grassy Glide. But I want to conserve Sash on Aleki here. So, okay, I'll switch Aleki out and just click Expanding Force here, honestly. I also, like, want to get Zacian in, but in this turn, if I switch in Zacian, I get hit by a Flare Blitz, that's brutal for us. So I'm just not willing to take that risk right now. Okay, pretty good damage from Expanding. We're going to go for U-turn onto Indeedee. Yep. It's a lot of damage, though. This one's really interesting just because we both have Fake Out, we both have Terrain, they have Intimidate. It's all about when we can get the restricted Pokemon in. Maybe it was worth it to just switch Indeedee out there because it does have Shadow Ball. Like, this Indeedee is actually the hardest counter into the Calyrex Shadow Rider, honestly. But now I've taken enough damage where they can just go for like a Psychic type attack. They're going to Parting Shot. Okay. So, we were pretty even on damage. The thing is, even when we just pick up 1 KO, that dramatically accelerates the pace of this game. I don't mind our position too much here, to be honest, either. It's not bad. The fact that they haven't gone for a Dark-type attack in 2 potential turns they could have against Indeedee makes me think they don't have one. Okay, I'm not sure who's faster between our Rillabooms, but obviously we know our Indeedee speeds. I'm just double checking and benchmarking it against our Rillaboom because we know our Indeedee outspeeds the Rillaboom. 118, 113. It's pretty close. How much speed investment does Rillaboom have on this team? 60. Okay, so us outspeeding is a decently reasonable assumption. Okay, I think I'm finally going to go out into Zacian here, and I mean, honestly, here, I think if you're my opponent, you U-turn out into Indeedee. Oh, I can't Fake Out Suicune either, right? Yeah, that's a problem. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Protect. Grassy Glide. Oh, they actually just make the hard switch. Makes sense. The problem is now they'll finally get Tailwind up. So much about this game was getting the Suicune in the right spot to get Tailwind up, and they did that really, really nicely. They gained a lot of momentum from this one specific turn. That was really well done. Okay. Now the game accelerates rapidly after both of us just making switch after switch all of these turns. Here's the problem. I don't have a safe Flare Blitz switch in right now from Incineroar. That's not good for us. However, my Aleki is Focus Sashed. So I have 2 lines of action I can take here. The first is to actually just sacrifice the Indeedee, which feels really bad, right? Because it is the best answer into Calyrex Shadow Rider. But like, we have AB Rillaboom and a Zacian, so it's not the end of the world. So I think I honestly like Follow Me here and U-turn because right now I need to get better positioning than where I am at in this current field state. Okay, so we'll get U-turn or Follow Me off. They're gonna Icy Wind, that's fine. Yeah, the other thing here is I really don't want to switch into like a Lecky and lose the Focus Sash immediately. So now my other question is how fast are your Incineroar and Suicune? Because I might even outspeed with Electro Web. Actually, what I can do here, as they finally Flare Blitz, yeah. What I can do here, which is really nice, is I sacrifice Immunity, but now I can bring in either Zacian or a Lecky. I think it's going to be a Lecky here. I just reset Intimidate as well, which is really good. Let me double check Zacian's speed here. 174. So they need 87 or more to outspeed us under Tailwind. They might. Lecky is max speed, so I think I'm going to go into a Lecky here. Yeah. Okay, and then we bring Rillaboom back out. Man, I guess the problem is T-Bolt I don't think KOs the Suicune, right? Now, we can Grassy Glide it pretty easily. We've seen Tailwind, Icy Wind, it's pretty standard attacks. Nothing really surprising there. Grassy Terrain disappears, so this works out for us in terms of how we pivoted Rillaboom. So that can come back out now. I mean, the problem is really just the free Flare Blitz that Incin offers right now. Two turns of Tailwind left. Like here, I want to just fake out into the Incineroar and Electro Web. The thing is, like, Rillaboom might actually be my late game win condition against their Calyrex, not Zacian. I think they played the switching game better than I did in this one. The way they maneuvered Suicune out was really nice, and the way they brought Calyrex in just to switch it out was also really nice. So, was it a Pokemon issue? That's part of it, I guess. Yeah, that's a really good play, too. That might actually just be a game-winning play for them, honestly, to make, because, well, not necessarily, I guess. The play I wanted to make was also just gliding. I guess, actually, hold on. That might actually be a bad thing, because now you just limited, like, I can actually bring in Zacian now at lower risk. And that's actually a really big deal for us, right? Okay, so actually that's not too bad. That's not too bad. The scary thing about this matchup is just dancing around all the potential fake outs that could come out at like any given point, right? I also have to know that I have that speed drop now, so Calyrex Shadow Rider can outspeed the Regieleki. And that's not good. Now it's the last turn of Tailwind. Rillaboom U-turning here feels fairly likely. Like, are you really going to Grassy Glide into a Lecky? So the thing here is I could make a big read and just Thunderbolt into Suicune. The question is, do I actually need to make that read right now? I really want to do it, though, just based off how they've been playing this whole game. So what we can do is U-turn into the Rillaboom slot and just T-Bolt into the Suicune slot. I think I'm going to go for it. And if they glide the Lecky, kudos to them. I think this is me playing more off intuition and not making the absolute best play. Okay, they go for fake out. Yeah, that's fine. We'll get T-Bolt off. Okay. Suicune is down. I mean, the main thing there is they didn't click Grassy Glide into Regieleki, so that's good. 138 to 147. So we gain 9, meaning if I protect, we actually get our Focus Sash back, basically. Or, like, Focus Sash is back in effect, basically, I think, which is pretty cool. I mean, now what? You bring out Calyrex, and then you expanding for Astral Barrage U-turn. Does that KO Rillaboom? Oh, boy. Astral Barrage U-turn. I have knockoff. Rillaboom is 252 HP, 28 special defense, 28 defense, 124 special defense. I mean, the play I want to make is just knock off and protect here. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for it. And it comes down to whether or not they knock out my Rillaboom here. Oh! Okay, well now Astro Barrage is definitely not picking up the KO at least. However, I don't think knockoff is going to KO the Calyrex, obviously. They might actually protect Calyrex here. Wait, that would be a really good play on their end. Okay, either they're not going for it or their Calyrex is still slower than us. Okay, yeah, they just didn't go for it. The good thing is now I have Focus Sash. But yeah, this is why it was so big of them to eliminate NDD so early on in this match. Yeah, you can see how good AV Rillaboom is here, though. It takes that like an absolute champion. Great damage from knockoff there. They're scarfed. Whoa. Okay. But I think with the knowledge now that you're choice scarfed, it means you're not, unless, I mean, you could be running protect, but that'd be really wild, right? You're scarfed, you're scarfed, you're scarfed. One thing I have to respect is Calyrex switching back out into Rillaboom, and then this thing just flare blitzing my Rillaboom. So I think I'm willing to glide here and Volt Switch. Yep, okay, they make the switch. That's honestly fine, I think. Because we should get the knockout onto Rillaboom with this double up. They don't fake out, so that's also good. The reason why this is really critical is because now my Regieleki, given that I've removed your Choice Scarf on Calyrex, will outspeed the Calyrex and just one-shot it. Now, I suspect a Flare Blitz is coming out this turn. But with the bulk that we have on Zacian, I think we can survive. And if it's going into Rillaboom, perfect. Parting Shot would be great. I mean, for them, I think, because then you recycle the Fake Out. But it's honestly fine. They do just go for Flare Blitz here. Okay. And they target Rillaboom. That should win us the game. Perfect. Now, even if Zacian got targeted here, I felt pretty good about our position because, one, I think we have a pretty good chance of surviving given our bulk. But even if you pick up the KO there, I have Focus Sash on Aleki, right? So then I just bring Aleki out. And the thing is, this Incineroar also didn't go for a Dark-type attack at any given point in the game against the NDD. Which makes me think then your only real damage output is from Flare Blitz, meaning every single Flare Blitz you go for, you take so much recoil damage, right? So now we're in a position where I've gotten rid of the Choice Scarf. Yeah, Choice Scarf Calyrex Shadow Rider is really interesting, right? I don't think it's consistent. I wouldn't play it in like a super big tournament, right? Because I just think like Life Orb or some damage boosting item is typically better. But in like a smaller, more niche format, or in best of one, like on the ladder, for example, that Choice Scarf can give you the extra edge that you need to just get like really surprise victories, basically. And the main reason you want to use Scarf on Calyrex Shadow Rider is because then you just outspeed, one, everything in the format, but two, also notably, it helps you win in the Calyrex Shadow Rider mirror. So, now what I can do is just Thunderbolt into this and Close Combat into this. And there's no way your Calyrex is faster than me now because I know I've gotten rid of the Scarf, and yep, we end up getting the win. That was a really intense one though, right? Because it was all about positioning. Like, that was 18 minutes of us switching back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But we were able to chunk away at damage, and I think what was really critical for us was that my opponent had multiple opportunities to actually deal damage, whether it be Glide from Rillaboom or Flare Blitz from Incineroar, but they just never really went for it, partially because they were so focused on cycling and Fake Out, right? And so that's why that one turn with Aleki against the Suicune, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make the call on Thunderbolt right now. Fortunately for us, they didn't click Grassy Glide into Aleki that turn. That could have been a game-winning play for them immediately there, and I didn't know if it was absolutely correct for me to play it the way I did, but just based off intuition and how they've been playing the whole match, I was like, you know what, let's just try to get something off the field immediately. That gave us a lot of momentum, and it was really critical. Yeah, like, they didn't double up onto my Rillaboom there to potentially pick up a knockout onto it. I'm surprised they hard switched there, honestly. But we take it. I'm trying to think why, logic out why they hard switch rather than just attacking Rillaboom there that turn. But as soon as the knockoff came out, we were already in really good shape. So, yeah. That was a really, really fun set of games. You can see how this is just such a consistent team, so I'm not surprised that Neil, the original creator, was able to get to #1 on the ladder with the team. So huge shout-outs to him once again. Check him out. Details in the description below for the team as well with the rental and a pace, courtesy of him. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll catch you all next time. All right, peace.